You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast, with your hosts, Danny and Kaylee. Hey guys, and welcome to Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny, and Kaylee is out this month, so I'm here with special guest, Shaun.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Today, we're reviewing Legend of Dragoon. Legend of Dragoon was originally developed by Sony Entertainment for the Sony PlayStation. In 1999, it was released in 2000 in North America. I actually bought it on release day.
I think I did too, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
I had gotten a bunch of money from my dad because I sold some Pokemon cards. I had like $200, and I went to the store because I wanted to buy a game. And this one was sitting there. I'm like, I haven't seen this before, but I just grabbed it because it looked cool and turned out to be an awesome game. So, again, Sony PlayStation 1. It was re-released a little bit for like PSN, but otherwise it hasn't really been like remastered or anything. There was a sequel that was planned and started development for a few years, but it ended up getting canceled for no real reason. The team members ended up moving to different projects, and it just never got finished, which is really sad. It could have been an awesome sequel.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Normally, we don't go over like the entire story, but I felt like the story was such a highlight of this game, and you could really tell that there was a lot of effort put into it, that I'm kind of going to go over the entire story. At least as best I can. I made myself a ton of notes, so hopefully we can get through the story okay. So, you start off with your main protagonist, Dart, being chased by a dragon. And this dragon, which, the dragons I didn't think looked like dragons. No. They're more like large insects.
Yes.
So he's being chased by a dragon, and he gets saved by this random girl, who we find out later to be Rose. And she doesn't really stick around. She just kind of sees him out in the woods, saves him, and goes about her own business. She does, however, manage to tell him about his town in Sales. Is that how you would pronounce it? Sales?
Celis?
Celis? Yeah, I don't know either. These games, at this era of games, it's like a lot of these words and names, you're kind of left to your own best judgment. Celis was getting attacked. And that's actually, it's Dart's hometown. So he runs back and finds out that his childhood friend, Shauna, had been captured and kidnapped and was taken to Helena prison. So he sets off for this prison to track down Shauna, and he runs into Lavitz, who is a knight of the Bale Kingdom. Dart and Lavitz meet up. They go and rescue Shauna together. They end up escaping from the prison. They make their way back to Lavitz's town in Bale, and that's actually the Crown City. And he has to report back to Albert of the situation of the war, whatever it was that he was doing before he got captured. Your team meets up with King Albert. Albert kind of explains a little more on the war situation between Bale and Sandora, and the emperor who's ruling Sandora, which is Emperor Dole. Dole is sending out this mysterious fleet of dragons and is attacking villages with these dragons. With the army and the dragons heading towards the city itself, Lavitz is sent to a nearby fort called Hoax, and is in charge of aiding in the war effort there. Dart and Shauna end up actually going with Lavitz because Dart really wants to help in ending this war. And I think at the time they really think that by killing this dragon they're going to end the war.
Right, yeah, it's kind of a sidestep from his main quest on the...
Yeah, his main quest of looking for the Black Monster. Dart, his original hometown of Neat, his birthplace, was attacked by this black monster, and this black monster leveled his hometown and killed his parents. So he was left an orphan and somehow managed to make it to Celis, where he learned skills as a warrior and then went out looking for the black monster. So That's kind of Dart's past. Shauna's past, she originally was friends with Dart when he was in the town of Celis, but they had been apart for about 5 years while he was out looking for the Black Monster. So back in Hoax, Dart and Lavitz is stationed on a night shift. You can kind of hear the owls in the background, and silence goes throughout the area, and he knows that they're being attacked. So he kind of alerts everybody, and that's when, obviously, the town does get attacked. They end up pushing the enemy back, but they end up getting attacked by a Giganto named Kongol. Kongol attacks Dart to the point where he's about to do a final blow on Dart when that warrior from before, Rose, she shows up and awakens Dart's Dragoon spirit. Now, the Dragoon spirit is something that Dart's been holding on to. All he knows is it's a shiny stone from his dad that he found in his hometown. When Rose awakens the Dragoon spirit, he transforms into this armored, winged knight who is given, like, magical abilities. Kongol ends up running away, and Dart passes out, I assume, from an energy surge or something. I don't know. Nobody else passes out after being awakened as a Dragoon. Rose ends up knowing a lot about Dragoons, being a Dragoon herself. And she teaches Dart a lot about the Dragoon, teaches him how to fight as a Dragoon. Rose ends up knowing about a nearby dragon nest. So the team goes to hunt down this dragon, and it's the dragon that's been destroying these towns. They hunt down the dragon nest and find the Jade Dragon, who's controlled by Graham. Lavitz ends up knowing this Graham guy. He's a former knight for Bale. They end up fighting, and with Graham dead, Lavitz acquires the Dragoon spirit that Graham had. And Shauna becomes ill somehow and faints. Because she's fainted, the team runs her to the nearest town, which ends up being Lowen. There's a doctor in this town who says that Shauna's been affected by the dragon's poison and can only be remedied by Dradini plant, which is only really from legend, according to the doctor. After walking around this town, they talk to an antique dealer who gives them some information about Shrine of Shirley. They start heading out to find this shrine. When they finally make it, they are attacked by a bandit. He's the protector of the shrine. When you finally do make it to the shrine, you find Shirley there, and Shirley is like a ghost, I guess. She's like a spirit of the shrine. She offers a way to save Shauna, but the team must prove they're worthy of, I guess, the help, Shirley, in the shrine. This battle frustrated me to no end. Yep. I think I lost like 3 times just because, or I had to keep redoing the talking segments.
Yep. If you get one wrong, you gotta start over.
Yeah, yep. And it was really annoying. You are fighting her, but you don't really actually have to fight, and then eventually she quizzes you. Well, at the end of the battle, she ends up giving you a silver Dragoon spirit, and she tells you that it will heal Shauna. So we go back to Lowen and give Shauna the spirit. Not only does Shauna get better instantly, but she is also accepted to be a Dragoon as well. So now we have Rose, Dart, and Shauna all Dragoons. After Shauna becomes well, the team decides to hang out in the town for a while. Dart goes down and enters a hero fighting competition, where he meets an old friend of his who is also in the competition. So Haschel and Dart are in the competition, and Haschel ends up in 3rd place, Dart ends up in 2nd place, and 1st place is this guy named Lloyd. There's no real history between Lloyd, he's just a really good fighter. They decide to head back to Bale, and he's just hanging out more than anything else. But then, as the team starts to decide to head back to Bale, a knight from Bale comes running into town, says that the king has been captured by the Empire. Haschel decides to join with the group to go to the prison to save the king. Haschel, he's actually looking for his daughter who ran away 20 years ago, which I think at some point you gotta give up, man. I mean, I get it, it's his daughter, but I mean, 20 years, it's a long time searching. So he does end up joining the party and going with you back to Helena prison. So you get back to the prison, you notice that the king has been captured by the warden, who is itching to kill this king, regardless of what his actual orders are. The team ends up making to the king before he's murdered and fights the warden. After the warden's defeated, a cloaked person shows up and steals some sort of item from within the king. I think Lavitz thinks that this cloaked figure is actually killing the king, not necessarily stealing something from him, but is actually murdering him. So Lavitz jumps up and attacks, who then in turn stabs him with a dagger and kills him. The cloaked figure ends up revealing himself as Lloyd, and the team now obviously knows that Lloyd's after something. Albert's fine, the king, and with Lavitz dead, Albert decides to avenge Lavitz's death, and he gives up his title as king. With Albert being part of the team now, he knows more about the war and what's going on. The party heads to the Black Castle. Emperor Doyle is staying at the Black Castle, and the party is eventually confronted by Kongal again. Kongal then is defeated again, but is spared his life. Kongal's kind of left confused, but he just stands there, so the party moves on. They actually get to Emperor Doyle, and Emperor Doyle too has a Dragoon spirit. So he's able to transform into a Dragoon, and you fight him. Obviously, your party's not going to lose, so you end up killing Emperor Doyle, and with his last kind of moments, he gives up information of where he got his Dragoon spirit. And he claims that it's from this Emperor Diaz, who Rose thinks that this Diaz guy died 11,000 years ago in a Dragoon campaign. Now, we haven't really talked about the Dragoon campaign yet, but we will. Doyle also tells the team about Lloyd and how Lloyd is heading to Tibora to get more moon objects. The moon objects is what Lloyd stole from Albert's body. It's the moon gem. While Albert doesn't really know what it's for, but it's a item that's passed down from king to king. The team leaves the castle, and with Doyle's death, the Dragoon spirit that he had ends up going to Haschel. So now pretty much everybody has a Dragoon spirit at this point. Yep. And the whole time that people are getting these Dragoon spirits, she keeps making statements like it's too much of a coincidence that they keep getting Dragoon spirits. So obviously this team of seemingly random people have a bigger role to play in fate. So the team ends up going to Fletz. And Fletz is a town, Timbora, where Lloyd is supposed to be heading. This town has Twin Tower Castle. And at the castle, they assume that the kingdom has another moon object. They're looking for any signs of Lloyd being there, trying to hunt him down. At this point, they assume that Lloyd is scheming something. They're really just chasing him because he killed Lavitz, and he plays a bigger part in something, but they don't really know. With no sign of Lloyd, they head towards the castle, where they meet Princess Emily, who turns out to be really rude and just not herself, at least according to Albert, who would otherwise know the family fairly well. They are not allowed into the castle, so they move on and find Mr. Fletcher. This guy, he works in the castle as a astronomer. He gives you a lot of information about the Dragon campaign and the moon that never sets, along with this moonchild. A bit of that backstory. The Dragon campaign was fought 11,000 years ago, and it was a war between Winglies and humans, who end up being Dragoons. Winglies rule the world, and they're trying to really beat back any other race or any other beings within the world to rule them. And the humans start rebelling back and manage to gain the Dragoon spirits from the dragons, who are more powerful but not quite as intelligent. In that campaign, the Dragoons win, and the Winglies are thought to be eradicated from the world. The moon that never sets, at this point, I don't think they go into a whole lot of detail about the moon, other than they do talk about the Moonchild a little bit, how the Moonchild is said to come every so many years to bring a blessing to the world. So that's kind of what Mr. Fletcher is doing, and giving a little bit of insight on the history of the world. But with no leads as to Lloyd, the team head to Danu looking for more information. Along the way, they come across some bandits who end up stealing Dard's Dragoon spirit. And because there's no leads to really find the bandits after they steal his Dragoon spirit, they just move on to the next town. In Danu, they find that the whole city is being controlled by this gang of bandits. When Dart does make it, they meet up with a lady called Kate, and her fiance Lynn had gone to fight the gang for the town. Dart is asked by the mayor, who's Lynn's father, to go help him. They set off to find this bandit, who they need to find anyway. And they come across a wild little girl in town who's fighting off some bandits. Her name's Maru. After she does her bit, she has a little bit of information about the bandits and where they're hiding, and so comes with you. So the team goes back to Fletz to go into the castle, because the location of the bandits, you can't get in without the king's direct permission. So they go back to the castle, and with Mr. Fletcher's help, they end up gaining access to talk to the king. They meet Princess Emily's younger sister, Lisa, who asks Dart to look into what's going on with Emily and her change in behavior. She says that Emily had got lost in a forest and came back and was just odd. So the team is asked to look into it. Dart notices that there seems to be a correlation between the arrival of the bandits in Danu and the instance with Emily. So Dart continues forward to hunt down the bandit. Dart ends up going to the Valley of the Corrupted Gravity, which is the area where they couldn't otherwise get into. They find the gang, who is run by Gurich. Now, this guy, he's a former student of Haschel, so Haschel knows him. They end up defeating this guy. And with Haschel's final blow, he knocks Gurich into a pillar, and this pillar goes to fall on the party when it's saved by Kongal. Kongal's been following him this whole time. Kongal wants to join the group to follow Dart. Kongal really wants to find a good, solid leader, and he feels that Dart is that leader. So Gurich, he offers information about Queen Emily with his dying breath, and he says that Queen Emily is not who she says she is, that she is an imposter. And they rescue Lynn, and they retrieve the Dragoon spirit, so they head back to Flitz. They're aiming to talk to the king about the fake princess. However, that day just happens to be the fake Emily's 20th birthday. That 20th birthday is when the moon dagger, which is the moon object that Lloyd is hunting down, it's when it's passed down to the princess. The team really goes out to try and find the real Emily to rescue her before that handoff happens. They end up finding her inside a painting, which is in another dimension. They run back to the king, and the king stops the ceremony. However, the fake princess reveals herself to be Lennis. She seems to have some sort of connection to Lloyd, but she's definitely getting the moon object for Lloyd. And she just kind of flies off. With her flying off, the team suspects that she must be a Wingly. So with the moon object being stolen, the king helps the team gain access across the ocean in the direction that this Wingly flew off to. They jump on a boat that the king arranges, and they head across the ocean. In the meantime, they run into a ghost ship, and the ghost ship is being tortured by souls who had been attacked by the black monster. Shauna is somehow mistaken for some princess that was on that ship, Luvia. There's a demon on the ship, so they fight the evil demon on the ship. So after the team fights the evil on the ship, they go to leave the ghost ship. Dart and Rose end up falling into the ocean. They end up washing up on shore of this little island. Rose helps Dart make it to a cave for the night, while Dart's pretty much passed out. While Dart's sleeping, Rose is reminded of Dart's father, who's Zeeg. They had fought together in the Dragon campaign. There's a huge cutscene here where Rose and Zeeg and a bunch of other Dragoons are flying around. Zeeg kills the leader of the Winglies and then gets turned to stone, and Rose is left as the only survivor of the Dragoon campaign. But the next day, Rose and Dart end up going to the town that's nearby, and there is a little kid, Pete, who is very ill and has to go to the next town to see a doctor. However, the next town is blocked by a tide. that is being controlled by a sea dragon. So the party manages to escort the kid and his mom to the next town of Fenu. They get the mom to the doctor, but they end up meeting up with the rest of the team nearby. With the kids safe, they can go around and look for more information about where the Wingley flew off to. And they find out that there's something mysterious going on in the prison island, which is said to have this sea dragon. So with that information, they assume that Linus must have gone there, and they head off to this prison island. At the prison island, they find Linus, and they see her hand the moon dagger to Lloyd. And Lloyd spouts out something about going to Melisesnu, which is another region in the world. What's the world called? Do you remember? Endinus. Yeah, you're right. The team ends up killing Linus, and with her final blow, she announces her love for Lloyd, but in the process ends up attacking Dart, but she still dies. And Linus, who also has a Dragoon spirit, with her death, the Dragoon spirit ends up going to Maru. The team is left without the moon dagger because Lloyd has it, and they head back to Flitz. And the king is more happy that everyone's safe and that justice was served than the fact that the moon dagger is still missing. The team kind of celebrates, the king throws a banquet. Albert promises to marry the real Princess Emily after the journey is over. With the new information from Lloyd, who's, for some reason, he told the team where he was heading to, the party moves forward to the local palace in Leningrad, and along the way, both Rose and Maru break off from the party, and the rest end up going straight to the Crystal Palace. They end up learning more about the Divine Tree and the creator Soa. Soa created the Divine Tree, and the Divine Tree had fruit, and this fruit is individual beings. They also do more research in the library and find information on the Black Monster and more about the Moonchild's lore. So they kind of find out that the Black Monster comes to kill the Moonchild. That's because the Black Monster doesn't want the Moonchild to give the blessing to the world. There's really no other information. Obviously, Dart is really looking for information on the Black Monster. I mean, that's part of his main goal in life. So in the meantime, Rose had actually gone to Neat, which is the town that Dart originated from, and was attacked by the Black Monster. It doesn't really seem that Rose has any direction being in the town, but she does find a girl, Luana. Luana is also a survivor of the Black Monster attack in Neat, but she had gone blinded by the incident. So Rose offers to escort Luana to the Crystal Palace, where she's from. So in the meantime, Maru, who also broke off from the party, goes to the Wingley Forest. She is trying to find her family. So this is the first time in the game that you find out that Maru is also a Wingley. She is not very well welcomed in town. They're all mad at her for leaving in the first place. All the Wingleys in town are kind of the last survivors of the race. They all want to stay together and stay hidden, and she branches out and is trying to make friends with these evil humans. The rest of the Wingleys are not happy about that, and they kick her out. So as she's leaving, she finds an old childhood friend of hers who sympathizes with her, but still wants her to come back to town. But as they're kind of talking about that, she finds out that the Divine Dragon has been awakened. And this Divine Dragon clearly is not a good sign. This was a great spot for a cutscene, and they threw in the dragon flying off into the distance and destroying or attacking the Crystal Palace. It doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. Nothing's really major destroyed in the town, but it does startle a lot of people. So back in the Crystal Palace, Rose makes it back to town with Luana, who meets up with Dart. And Luana and Dart kind of share this moment, having been survivors of the Black Monster incident, just when Divine Dragon shows up and attacks the town. So with the town being under attack, Luana sends a party to meet with Queen Teresa at the Crystal Palace. Inside the palace, they meet Miranda, who is kind of this hot-headed warrior girl. She's part of, what do they call those? The sisters, or the
Sacred Sisters?
Sacred Sisters. Yeah. There was 3 of them, the 3 Sacred Sisters. Yep. She's giving some of the knights a rough time about letting the dragon go and to go hunt down the dragon. When the team shows up and talks to the queen about their history on being dragoons and the possibility of, killing the divine dragon, Miranda is very skeptical of the team's ability to do this, but she really wants to see what's going on with this dragon, and she wants to kind of do it herself, I think. So she offers to go with. Rose knows that the divine dragon is way too strong to take on by hand. Lloyd had stolen a dragon buster. With the dragon buster gone, Rose does happen to know of one other item that could help the team kill the dragon, and that is the dragon block staff. Now, this dragon block staff, Rose somehow knows from her 11,000 year history of the Wingleys having it. So she pushes Maru to reveal that she's a Wingly and to try and aid the team in finding this dragon block staff to defeat the divine dragon. Shaun ends up disappearing. Shaun is found in this secret room and is strangely attracted to this mysterious signet sphere. The queen doesn't even really know anything about it, being that the Crystal Palace used to be an old Wingly city. With Shauna's condition, Shauna knows that she can't really move forward, she can't go with the team to fight the dragon, so she stays behind and Miranda takes her place, and even Miranda is accepted as the next Dragoon for Shauna's Dragoon Spirit. So Maru reluctantly agrees and escorts the team to the Wingly Forest, where, again, she's not really welcomed very well, but the ancestor allows the team to go into the forest and meet with him. So they go in to meet with the ancestor Blanio. The team kind of describes the situation, and the ancestor knows that this is it's a necessity to kill this dragon. So he allows them passage into this forbidden land to retrieve the dragon block staff. So they go into the forbidden land, and it's this ruined Wingly city. So they make it to the dragon block staff, and Maru goes to grab it because it's mounted in the ceiling. And just as they grab it, they come across the Grand Jewel, who is protecting the dragon block staff. And that guy was a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
mostly because there's not enough time between the Virage fight and this fight, and I had no idea it was coming.
Yeah, and you can't use Dragoon.
Right, exactly. So I use all of my magic items on the first guy because that's what I do.
Right.
I save all my items for the boss fights, and then I get to this Grand Jewel, and he just demolished me. I think I fought him 2 or 3 times before I finally got him.
You kind of have to, at that point, you got to use additions and then a lot of healing. Because his magic attacks are super strong.
Right, exactly.
Which is weird, because when you try to use magic on him with the Dragon Block staff,
you can't do nothing.
Doesn't do
I know.
anything. And then he turns back time.
Yeah, he does. So you end up losing levels. Yeah. It's annoying. Yeah. So after they get the Dragon Block staff from the Grand Jewel by defeating him, the party ends up going to... they get out of the ruins... And just as they do, the dragon heads back towards the Crystal Palace. Now, Blanio understands that there's a huge danger for the city, so he helps the team teleport to the Crystal Palace. However, he's too weak. So luckily, the rest of the Wingleys in town understand the severity of the situation, and they all help use their magic to teleport the team to the Crystal Palace. Unfortunately, the team doesn't make it in time, and the Crystal Palace is significantly damaged. Most of the buildings are destroyed, but luckily the Queen and the others in the palace are safe, thanks to Shauna's odd power. She was able to keep everyone okay. So the party sets off to the Mountain of Mortal Dragon to take on the Divine Dragon itself. So they make it up the mountain, and they hear the sound of sword clashing, and they find out that Lloyd is already there fighting the dragon. When the team makes it up to the dragon, Lloyd kind of backs off and lets the team fight him. With the Dragon Block staff, it made the Divine Dragon really easy to fight. He was a super easy fight. I was expecting this big, battle,
right?
And I beefed all my guys up, and it wasn't.
Yep.
As soon as the dragon dies, though, Lloyd jumps to the dragon and cuts out the dragon's dragoon spirit and flies away again. The party does end up chasing Lloyd this time, and Lloyd uses magic and shoots Dart and Rose off a platform. Then they get saved by Maru, which is no big deal. But I think the point of him using magic at this point was to show that he too is a Wingly. And the team kind of understands that from the magic. Miranda knows more about the moon objects, so Miranda leads the team to hunt down these moon objects at Kashua Glacier. Now, in the meantime, while Miranda is leading the team to the glacier, Lloyd finds Wink again, who is one of the Sacred Sisters at the Crystal Palace. So Wink is actually being attacked by a Wingly who is really trying to get revenge on all humans for killing his sister. Lloyd is able to protect Wink and kill the Wingly with only slight wounds. And Wink offers to take Lloyd back to the palace and help him get back to health. Lloyd then gets confronted by the Queen. The Queen is offering thanks, for saving Wink, when he grabs the Queen and disappears. So now Lloyd has the Queen in his hands, literally. In the meantime, the party's at the glacier. Miranda kind of leads the team to where the moon mirror is kept. They find where Lloyd is keeping the Queen. When they do finally find Lloyd, he transforms into the Divine Dragoon and attacks the team. They manage to beat Lloyd, and with Dart's final blow, Wink jumps in the way, and Dart ends up attacking Wink instead. Wink shows so much loyalty to Lloyd, and without reason, that Lloyd, I think, becomes soft. He aids the team in locating where Emperor Diaz is, but the Queen then gets word that Shaun has been captured by Emperor Diaz. Lloyd leads the team to Diaz in the ruins of Capital Velweb, and along the way Lloyd kind of explains what the plan is for the moon objects and how they play in everything that he's been doing. But Diaz knows everything, so Lloyd is not really saying everything that's going on, the whole plan, but basically says, hey, talk to Diaz and we'll, you'll find more. So they make their way to Diaz. Dart trades all the moon objects that Lloyd had for Shauna's life. Diaz then reveals that his whole plan, which is resurrecting the 108th divine tree fruit with the moon objects, as part of Creator Soa's plan. So Lloyd attempts to attack him, to attack Diaz. I think that Diaz's plan of resurrecting this other being wasn't what Lloyd expected. And I think he was upset about this betrayal, and so Lloyd attacks Diaz. Lloyd then ends up falling into the city below, presumed dead. Then Diaz reveals himself as Zieg. Now, Zieg is Dart's father, but also Rose's lost love. Zieg then kind of reveals the full plan. And the full plan is the 108th being is called the God of Destruction. And the God of Destruction was originally split from his body and soul by the Winglies upon creation. The body is contained in the moon that never sets, where the soul then jumps from human to human as the Moonchild. Which I thought was an interesting twist, not just the Diaz-Zeke thing, which also threw me way off. I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah, me either.
Also, the whole, you thought that the Moonchild was this huge blessing that's brought upon the world, and then you find out that it's actually this destructive force that is jumping from human to human, trying to survive.
Yep.
Zeke then tells how the black monster has been killing the Moonchild every time that it gets reborn. And the moon objects that he's been creating is the only power that can destroy the signet spheres that are scattered around the world. Now, these signet spheres have the power to contain the moon, which is holding the body of the god of destruction. So Zeeg's real plan is to release the god of destruction upon the world, destroying the world, so that the creator can rebuild a new world. Along the way, he ends up revealing that Rose is, in fact, the black monster. And the whole time, you're kind of getting hints and pieces that, it's probably Rose. Just by what she says and how she acts, and the fact that she went to Neat and was kind of, paying respects, I feel like, to this town. Her ultimate goal was to continuously kill the Moonchild to keep this god of destruction at bay. Dart is obviously upset about this news, but is more focused on the task at hand to keep Zeeg from actually destroying the Signet Spheres and releasing the god of destruction. So Zeeg tells Rose that she killed the wrong Moonchild last time. Princess Luvia is who Rose had originally killed, had a twin sister, Shauna. And Shauna is the Moonchild, the real Moonchild. So Zeeg steals Shauna again and disappears. So the party's kind of left to figure out where the rest of the Signet Spheres are and how to get Shauna back. Obviously, at this point, it's not just, getting these moon objects back, but they're kind of in charge of saving the world. The next time you see the party, they are somehow in a desert. There was a disc change here. This is a 4-disc game, and it seems like that maybe a few weeks have passed. The party's wandering around a desert looking for this wingly city of Altura. Rose clearly has an idea of where the city is and is trying to lead the team. Dart, again, he accepts that Rose is a black monster, but worries more about saving the world and saving Shauna than that past. Rose kind of explains on how she can live super long, because obviously she's been living for 11,000 plus years now. She says that there's a spell underneath her collar, which also can reveal the location of this hidden city. So they make it through a desert, but they look out and there's this span of desert, and she uses the spell to reveal the city. So they make it to Ultra. The team meets up with Charlie. Charlie is the person who helped Rose make it where she is now. I think there's a lot more history between Rose and Charlie than they really reveal at this point, but they just don't give him any information. So Charlie also created the Signet Spheres. Back in the Dragon campaign, she made the Signet Spheres to keep the former king, Melbuframa, in check. But he didn't like that so much, so he created the moon objects to be able to break the Signet Spheres to release this power. Charlie also tells them about the location of most of the Signet Spheres being in Wingly cities. Rose and Dart get a chance to talk about the Black Monster situation. Dart understands the significance of what Rose had been doing all these years, and how hard it must have been always killing these people. He says that the Black Monster is dead, that there is no more Black Monster, especially after what's happening now with God of Destruction possibly being resurrected. There's no need for the Black Monster anymore. The team is trying to get back to Rogue. I don't know where the lead comes from, and I don't really remember why they want to go to Rogue, other than...
I think, Charlie, you said she reveals where those signets would be. And one of them, she tells you where the cities are, and I think that's...
They know that Rogue is nearby or something?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
So she teleports the team back to the mainland, and they have to make their way back to Flitz, the castle where Emily is. They board the king's ship, the Queen Fury, and make their way to Rogue. And Rogue is a town where Hashel's from. And so Hashel's well welcomed in the town. They talk about seeing the stick out in the ocean. Now, Rose, knowing where the old Wingly cities used to be, she knows that is probably not a stick. So they take a boat out into the ocean, and they end up making it to this one of the Wingly cities, the Aglis, the magical city. So when they make it to the city, they find out that it's under the ocean. Somehow they're able to breathe. And they find Savin, who is the last remaining Wingly in the city. And all these years, he's been preparing for this moment, trying to find another way to seal the moon outside of the Signet Spheres. He has a plan, and his plan is to build a psych bomb to destroy Zeke and to use Moot to seal the Signet Sphere. And it's also protected by the last Kraken. The psych bomb is built by Courage, so every team member has to go through a Courage test. Once they build the psych bomb, Savin finishes collecting the Moot. They go down to actually seal the Signet Sphere. Just when Zeke magically controls the last Kraken and destroys the Signet Sphere, you end up fighting the last Kraken. After the fight, Savin ends up dying trying to protect the party from the Signet Sphere's explosion. He ends up opening a teleporter to the next Wingley city that you're supposed to find the next Signet Sphere. So we got one of the 3 Signet Spheres is destroyed. They head to the lost city Zenbatos. When you first get there, you find a creature called Kulon, and he is like he's your airship. For all the other RPGs, you get an airship that you can kind of go wherever you want, which I thought was awesome, by the way. I didn't like him, but I like that you could do that.
Yeah.
The creature offers up help to be able to fly to other areas. However, he's not able to fly to the next city, which is the Death City. The team needs to get to the Signet Sphere in the Lost City and get there before Zeke does. Well, naturally, Zeke does make it there before you and destroys the Signet Sphere again, and then disappears. Kulon can't fly to this next city, so they activate a teleporter to teleport into the Death City. Each of these cities have a very specific goal, or a very specific task that they perform among the Wingleys. The Magical City is where magic is made, the Lost City is where the laws of the Wingley are created, and the Death City is where all of the dead Wingleys, or all souls, are collected and done something with. I guess they don't really say what that is either.
No, it's just where the souls that haven't come to terms with their deaths.
Yeah. There they find Lavitz's spirit, who is being controlled by a demon. So obviously the party destroys the demon and saves Lavitz, and they kind of have that moment of everything's good, we're moving on sort of thing. I think Lavitz's soul was still in the Death City because he was having trouble coming to terms to his own death, and that so many things were left unsaid. So it was nice that Dart and Lavitz were able to have that moment of, hey, it's cool, move on, sort of thing. They keep chasing Zeke to the Signet Sphere, but again, Zeke destroys the Signet Sphere before the team is able to make it to the town. So that's the last Signet Sphere has been destroyed. The party is then swept up by Kulon, who is able to take them away from the town. The moon then falls. And there's an awesome cutscene with the moon falling from the sky. The divine tree then catches the moon, starts the process of awakening the god of destruction within. Just because the Signet Spheres are destroyed and the moon has fallen, the team doesn't give up. They're not giving up until they're not living anymore. So they continue pushing to find Zeke. So they fly to the divine tree, and they climb up the divine tree and make it to the moon itself. In the moon, it's kind of this alternate dimension where it grabs everybody's memories and kind of transforms it into the landscape. Every person in your party has to then confront their past and overcome it in order to advance. You get a lot of backstory in this segment and a lot of understanding of where the characters are coming from and who they really are. Miranda, her mother had left her when she was real young and left her with her abusive father, who then ended up dying. Well, Miranda then was adopted by the queen and made a sacred sister and allowed to stay in the castle. But she still struggles with her mother and that whole situation. She's able to overcome that and, come to terms with what her mother had to do. Haschel is confronted with his daughter, who we haven't said yet, but his daughter is actually Dart's mom, which it didn't seem necessary, but whatever. Haschel's daughter gets possessed by a war god, and needs to be saved by Haschel. Kongol, he's the last survivor of the Gigantos. While his people were all destroyed by humans, he's still fighting to save all people, all life. He's confronted by his brother, who all this doesn't really exist as reality. It's, Kongol is the last survivor of the Gigantos, but he's confronted by his brother. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense other than it's this alternate reality. Kongol fights his brother and receives his brother's blessing as a true warrior and is able to continue his journey to save the world. Rose fights her Dragoon's dragon, Michael, who's like the dark dragon. The dragon doesn't recognize her from the dragon campaign. Rose had originally rescued this dragon and named it, but now that it's come back and it doesn't recognize her, it's attacking her. And she struggles with revealing the dragon's weakness to Dart, and the dragon otherwise is super difficult if you don't utilize the weakness. Albert is confronted with his uncle, Emperor Doyle, who he had killed before, but this alternate reality thing. Doyle had originally killed his father. Albert, I think, struggles with that. Albert's father used to be king of Bale, now it's Albert, because Doyle killed him. But he confronts his uncle on why kill his father, and Doyle tries to convince Albert that in order to be a good leader, you have to have power. And Albert shows that you don't necessarily have to have power to be a good leader, but good friends and to put the people first. Maru, she is confronted with an archangel. He has a very strong opinion on where humans should be on the ladder, I guess. He really sees humans as low and shouldn't be allowed to rule the world, that winglies should be the ones who are ruling. Maru tries to persuade the Archangel in what she's seen of humans, that humans aren't as bad as they may be depicted. I think it's supposed to signify maybe her inner struggle with who she really is as a wingly, versus who she's coming to be with befriending all these humans. Everyone kind of confronting their past, they move forward. Now, we haven't really done Dart, because Dart didn't have one. Dart's confronting of the past is in Zieg, who's his father. So they go forward and they try to find Shauna and Zieg. Zieg ends up stealing Dart's Dragoon Spirit and attacks the team. So the team has to fight Zieg without the Dragoon Spirit. But just as Dart defeats Zieg, Zieg reveals he's not actually Zieg, he's this Melbu Frama. Melbu Frama used to be the old Wingly leader and is now corrupted by power. He explains how 11,000 years ago, Melbu Frama got defeated by Zieg, contained himself in Zieg's Dragoon Spirit, and turned Zieg to stone. Zieg, over time, was able to release himself from stone and was able to live out his life fairly normally. He got himself a wife, had a kid. When the black monster attacked, he transformed himself into a dragoon, but in turn he got possessed by Melbu Frama. What I find funny is that the Dragoon Spirit was able to be left behind. So I don't know if Melbu Frama didn't need the Dragoon Spirit.
Just needed a body, maybe?
Just needed the body, needed to be alive again, and, he's powerful enough with his magic that he didn't, I don't know. So Melbu Frama then is revealed to be Zieg. But now that the moon is transforming into this god of destruction, he uses Shauna's moonchild soul to fuse himself with the god of destruction's body, and therefore turning himself into the god of destruction. His ultimate goal is to destroy the world so that Soa, the creator, can rebuild the world as a new world. His world, really. That's when Lloyd shows up. Now, Lloyd, again, is still angry at Melbu for, this deception and attacks. Lloyd is no match, and Lloyd gets killed. Just before Lloyd dies, he hands Dart his Divine Dragoon spirit. Then Dart and his whole party go and attack Melbu. Now, the fight was very interesting, the last fight. We'll go into a little bit more when we talk about gameplay, but it takes like these ages or something, like eras or something.
First generation.
Yeah, generations. Yeah. That's what it was. And I didn't really understand what was happening in that. I don't know if it's supposed to be time passing or I don't know. I don't know where they were going with that. It confused me. But obviously, Dart destroys Melbu and saves the world. In return, though, the moon is gonna explode. So just before Melbu's final death, where the moon explodes, Rose is able to help Zieg up, and Zieg and Rose tell Dart to leave, to take everybody and leave. Dart picks up Shauna and rushes out off the moon. Zieg and Rose then attack Melbu, and the moon explodes, killing Rose and Zieg along with. It's kind of this bittersweet thing. Rose and Zieg are finally together. They loved each other way back in the first Dragoon campaign, and it's, nice that they're together in death, if only. But, still, for Rose, she has been living for 11,000 years. So, I mean, for her, she's probably done.
Yeah.
After that long, she's probably sick of it. The world's saved. Shauna survives. Shauna and Dart end up going back to Celis and rebuilding it. Albert does marry Emily, and Haschel, I don't know, did they clarify what Haschel does?
I think he just goes back to his town.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't recall them saying anything about him ever reuniting completely with his daughter.
Well, he didn't, because his daughter died, because it was Dart's mom.
Right.
So
yeah.
Maru goes back to her Wingley Forest and is welcomed, finally. But yeah, that's pretty much it for story. So let's talk as if we haven't talked enough about the story. I have a couple things that I wanted to go over. I really found it interesting that there wasn't, and again, the whole reason why I did this whole story was you didn't do anything that wasn't directly related to the story. There was always story progression. Even if it was small, it had it was a piece of the puzzle. Putting it all together and seeing it as a whole at the end was really satisfying. It's not easy to tell this story in a brief, paragraph.
Yeah, there's so much going on. You could have given it a very vague overview, but that wouldn't have done very much justice. Even going at that depth that we went into, I think you could still hear that if you've never played the game, still play it and find a lot of stuff that...
Oh yeah, definitely. You could definitely play through this game again and see little bits. I mean, we played the demo before we started the review, and even in the demo, I saw that segment where the Black Monster was attacking Dart's town in Neat. You hear Zieg, Dart's dad, go in to fight the Black Monster. You hear Zieg activating the Dragoon Spirit, and then a monster roars. And it's like, your first thought when you play the game is, well, that monster was clearly the Black Monster, right? Well, no, probably not. Because the Black Monster is just Rose.
Right.
Rose isn't anybody special. She's not a monster. Mm-hmm. So that roar was probably more of a roar from the Melbu fusion thing that was going on, more so than it was, a monster. So, I mean, yeah, you could easily play it over again and see a lot of stuff that you missed. So there's a replay value in that. I didn't really feel lost when I was playing. They did a really good job explaining exactly where you needed to go. There was a few times that I got lost in the dungeons because each dungeon was kind of a puzzle.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, story-wise, I knew where I was heading. They made it very clear to give me direction.
Yeah, and what's good, too, is there's some extras you don't have to do, but you can. If you have the guide or if you look it up online, you can go do it, and they actually do pertain to the story.
Yeah, there was a part that I skipped where Shirley, right before you meet Emperor Diaz for the first time, Shirley is like, hey, come back here when you get a chance. And I never did it because it's like, well, I don't have to, so I'm not going to.
And that's where you go and fight all the old Dragoon spirits from the actual Dragon campaign.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then you get some backstory on who they are.
You get some good good armor, a lot of experience,
Oh,
a
that's
lot
cool.
of money, and there's other things too. But yeah, there's a few little things that give you a little bit more explanation that you don't actually have to do.
Some of the things that I didn't really like, they left a lot for you to interpret, but I mean that's good too. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I kind of wanted a full like this is why.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There was a couple times in the game, and this might be more gameplay than it is story. The party like splits up from time to time, and then you have to go and collect them all again, and I hated that. I hated having to go find all these people over again and over again and over again. It's like, I mean, you got little tidbits of more story individually, but really the one on the Queen Fury was the worst.
Oh, that was probably the longest
Yeah.
span of when you were separated.
Yeah. You switched who you had in control of, like, you were Shauna, and then you were Dart, and then you were Rose. It was weird. It was a weird segment. Lastly, I really didn't think Miranda was a very good personality fit for Shauna's Dragoon.
Yeah, that's a big... As annoying as Shauna was, as far as always having some kind of problem,
Yeah.
the separation from her and Miranda as people and their personalities was so far and away different from each other that it kind of would have been cool to see Shauna play it through, but you can't do that with the way the story ended up,
Right.
You couldn't keep her, but it was different.
But yeah, otherwise, I mean, the story was awesome. I mean, I found myself many times being like, it's going on midnight and I have to work the next day, but I need to know what happens. Not that, there's ever any satisfaction in playing for one more hour, because more happens.
Right.
It's still, it was a great story.
Yeah, I had played, it's been a while, but I think this is probably my third or fourth playthrough.
Wow.
But even so, I remember it's been so long that I think I know it's coming, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's really cool.
I gave the story a 10 out of 10. What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't know if it's nostalgia, because this is, I think, the first RPG I ever played. Maybe that plays into it, but I have to agree is all the games I've played since then, that's probably one of my favorite story-wise.
Definitely.
It's different.
Let's talk about graphics a little bit. It came out in North America in 2000. That's about Final Fantasy IX era, which probably means more to me and Kaylee than it would to you I don't know how much Final Fantasy you've played.
Yeah,
but,
I played that once.
It's kind of blocky for the actual characters. It didn't really take away from the game, but I feel like they definitely invested more time and resources into the story than they did the graphics. That said, the pre-rendered backgrounds were beautiful in a lot of the areas.
Yeah, I have to agree that character-wise, actual characters and regular gameplay were fuzzy, blocky.
Yeah.
I know they tried going the realistic route, where a lot of the early Final Fantasies didn't. So that was a little bit rough to look at, but the actual, like you said, the pre-rendered backgrounds and the cutscenes were actually...
The cutscenes were very nice.
Done really well.
There was some little details that I really liked. The characters' animation, when they're just standing, they kind of twitch a little bit, and they shift their weight, and they, move their hands, and I liked that. It wasn't... While the characters themselves didn't visually look realistic, their movements made them feel realistic.
Yeah.
And I liked that small detail, but it was really nice. The color, too, in this game is really cool. Really bright colors. The cities that have water in them are really cool. The Flets, the Twin Tower Castle, that place was awesome. Yep. The white buildings and the castle, all the castles were really well done. There was a few problems that I had with when you're walking around like a cave and you have to go to a specific area, you can't really tell what the path is. I found myself a lot of times running into walls because I couldn't really tell where I was supposed to be going.
Yeah, I can see that.
But otherwise, I mean, it's not awful, just kind of annoying. Some of the monster detail was not where it could have been. There was a lot of monsters that were like very glitchy lines or oddly segmented, but again, you understood where they were going with it, but they could have put a little bit more effort into the monsters, really. The characters looked really nice, like in the battles, but the monsters just looked... Some of them were really bad.
Yeah.
I gave the graphics a 7 out of 10. What do you think?
Yeah, when you average it all, I'd say that the characters and the monsters, you're going to be lower than that, but when you average the backgrounds and the cutscenes in there. I think overall it did a fairly decent job.
What do you think? Out of 10?
I'd put it, because just for me, just everything else trumped it. So I would say I'd 7.5 probably.
Okay. Well, I'll jump it up to an 8.
8.
Why not? So gameplay. Most games have a lot of gameplay, but this one's different. It goes back to the story. The story was put so much focus on that a lot of the other aspects of the game kind of lacked a little bit. The gameplay, I think it could have been better. The battle system was very unique. The additions were fun at first, but they got very repetitive and frustrating to me. The magic system was neat, but I think they could have done something else. I would have rather the magic system be like, if I threw out SparkNet, I want to push triangle, circle, or whatever, to activate it, instead of just mashing the button. I kind of felt like, especially the way that I mashed the button, I could have been breaking all my controllers easily. But overall, the gameplay was it was nice. There was fun. The Stardust collecting was neat.
Yep.
I liked that concept. I did end up finding all the Stardust. It was not easy.
No, it was annoying.
I got down to about, I had, I think, 5 left, and I had to use a guide to find the rest of them, and it was like, I found a guide online that had a screenshot of each one, and I'm like, okay, I know I found that one, oh, I haven't found this one, so I'd have to go back and hunt it down. What did it unlock if you got all the, I know it unlocked some armor or something, but...
Earlier I was talking about there's a lot of stuff that kind of have a background more of what's going on, and that's what the 50 Stardust does. It gives you some kind of key. I can't remember where you find them, but some other magical city, and you fight an old Wingly who apparently was as stronger than Melbuframa.
Oh.
And you fight him, and you get this crazy armor, and he's probably, if you're not ready, if you don't have the right stuff, the hardest fight in the entire game.
Oh yeah. Well,
he can wipe you out instantly.
It's good that there's a super boss.
Yeah.
In most of these games, I'm just itching to get to the end.
Yeah.
I don't usually do a whole lot of the extra stuff, but I don't know if my guys would have even been strong enough to take them on.
No, you have to have some of the legendary armor, otherwise you're done.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have that armor that's extremely expensive,
Gotcha.
You won't last 2 turns. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was a handful of mini games in Lowen, the market city.
Right.
They were really difficult, but it was just kind of fun that they threw them in there.
Yeah.
I liked the one where you had to dodge all the obstacle course.
That one was
dodge everything.
Tough.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That one's tough.
You have to play it over and over and over again to even get the first level down.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the next level, and it's even harder.
Yep.
I think I died on that several times, and afterwards, the lady who's running that, she gives you a hard time for it. It's like, really? It was hard, man. Oh, the monsters had a lot of specialty moves, which I really liked. You have the magic system, which is really just items that you throw out, but a lot of monsters had their own moves. Mm-hmm. Or enemies, not just monsters.
Right.
Like, the sea dragon had this, mix attack with the Wingly girl.
Oh, yeah.
And it was this super attack. It was neat to see that.
Yeah, it kind of almost made me mad. Because when you get the Dragoons from them, you
can't do those moves.
You can't do those moves. Man, that move was really cool.
I know. I thought that too. What boss did you have the worst time with, do you think?
Oh boy. I'm trying to think back here. I don't think I ever had much difficulty with any of the Virages.
Yeah.
It's one we talked about when you were going through the game that I can't think of.
The gem guy was probably my hardest.
Yeah. That's probably...
And that was more of a situation thing. If I had time to prep for it, I think it would have been better. Oh, I take that back. He was hard, but there was an optional boss. The second time you fight the Divine Dragon. I couldn't beat him.
No, you're right. Yeah, in the Death City. He was hard too. I thought I was... Shoot, I'll beat him, no problem.
That's what I thought too.
And I
beat the first 2 dragons just fine.
I can't tell you how many... I think I used all my Angel's Prayers, and then I had to use all the revived Dragoon magic from Miranda, and it was...
My biggest problem with him was that he was too fast.
Yeah, he was.
He was taking like 4 turns for every like 1 round of our guys.
Yeah, and then you got to heal everyone, and then you have a couple hits, and then he's knocked everyone out again.
Yep.
I did beat him, but I think I died the first time, and I played it again. I beat him the second time, but still had to go through everything.
I fought him twice. The first time I died like right away. The second time I put up a better fight. But by the second time, I understood that my guys were just too slow. I was using Dart, Kongal, and Maru. And I found, you got Kongal, who's the hard hitter. You've got Maru, who does awesome magic damage. And then you got Dart, who you have to have in your party.
Right.
And Maru's super fast. She's the fastest in the game. Yeah. But with Kongal being as slow as he is, I couldn't get more than 2 hits in before the Divine Dragon killed half my team again.
Yeah, I did Dart, Maru, and Miranda because Miranda's got the highest magic attack. And I actually had, at that point in the game, I think I had those legendary armors. I saved up money to get them. And I think that's the only way I beat them. Because one of them puts your magic defense up like stupid.
Yeah.
And then I had another armor on that cuts physical attacks down by half. I don't know. If it wasn't for those, there's no way. Because even with those, I had a hard time.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Yeah, the good thing was it was optional. And the chest that he's protecting, after you go and see Zeeg, and whenever you do whatever it is that you do in that town, you can go back and backtrack. The dragon's gone, and you can get that chest. So, I mean, you don't even have to fight him. But I don't even think... It seems like I looked up whatever the item was, and I'm like, I don't need it, and I just skipped it altogether.
Yeah, I think the only benefit is he gives you huge experience if you beat him.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. What level were your guys at? Do you remember?
At that time?
No, I mean, by the end of the game.
I think Dart was... They were all upper 40s. Dart was the highest, I think 49.
Yeah, I think I was about the same. I think I had Dart at like 48, and the rest of my team was like 45, 43, somewhere in there. What I didn't like was the way that the experience was divided out.
Yeah.
It made it really hard to level up, and it was almost worth killing half of your party just to level up so that, it still gets divided up by who's alive, but if 2 of your party members are dead, at least it's 2 less that it has to divide up by. That was so annoying because you can't sit and grind the way that it is.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons it was so hard.
Yeah,
you could get overpowered, but you would be spending hours and hours and hours because as you level up, you need more experience to get to the next level, and if you stay in the same spot fighting for 10 hours to get another level, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I wonder if they have a spot somewhere that has like some crazy experience enemies or something.
Yeah, but
most games have like a loophole that you can utilize that gets you more experience.
What I found, it wasn't in this playthrough, but it was a previous one. There is a place, but at that point you're already on the moon.
Oh yeah,
where you fight Rose's dragon.
Oh yeah, okay.
There's a little Triceratops there that you get 2,000
Oh
experience.
yeah, him.
But even that, I mean, you're already pretty much at an hour away, not even an hour away from the end of the game at that point.
And you can't go back. Once you go to the moon, you can't go back.
Right.
So what's the point?
Right.
Other than leveling, if your guys are like way under leveled somehow.
Well, even that, 2,000 split 2 ways because it's only Rose and Dart at that point. Too,
yeah.
So at that high level, you're 12,000 experience to the next level. Yeah. Splitting it up 3 ways, you're gonna be there forever anyway.
Yeah. The paths in the overworld, the world map. Why not just make it free to roam? I don't like the paths. I guess that I get it because you have to, they make you do the hurdles through the dungeons, but, I mean, most games can do that, and you can just roam around. What's stupid is that then you could go back and forth on this thing, on this little path, and you can fight monsters in the overworld, which had different monsters than just in each individual area.
Yeah. It's weird. It was... That, in a sense, that made it extremely linear, but it's weird because it didn't really feel like that linear of a game.
Yeah, I agree.
It's very weird.
It's like, it's linear, but you can kind of go where you want to an extent. It's just, you have to do a lot of backtracking to get there. And that's what made it nice at the very end when you got the flying guy and you can kind of go wherever you wanted. However, I went back to Lowen, that town.
Commercial town.
Yeah. And I had to put disc 2 back in.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta put the other discs back in. And that's where you get Congo's Dragoon Spear.
Yeah, I did backtrack. As soon as I got Congo, I backtracked and got that. Yeah, backtracking. Oh, and just playing the game, you did a lot of backtracking through dungeons anyway.
Right.
You would go through a dungeon and go to the town, and then they're like, oh, no, you gotta go to this town now. And then you gotta go back through the dungeon again to get to that town. Yeah. That was annoying. But, I mean, ultimately, I still gave it an 8 out of 10.
I enjoyed the additions. It's so different.
It's nice.
Still, I don't think there's been a game that's had anything similar to that.
No, not turn-based, for sure, not turn-based. Yeah. I mean, you have games now that are more active, so, I mean, you fight, by mashing the X button or whatever you do. The additions are very different. I liked it at first. After a while, I had a problem with staying focused while I was battling, because it would be more of a repetitive thing, like, oh, I'm in another battle. So then you can't just push the X button. Like in most RPGs, if you're high enough leveled, you can just kind of press the X button and just attack. Where this game, if you don't do your additions, you're doing hardly nothing.
Yeah.
And you can end up dead in an instant and not even notice.
Right. See, I liked it in the fact that, you had to do 80 successfully to get to the next, mastering it to the next one, but I wanted to see how different the next edition was.
Yeah.
So I did like that. Once you're maxed out, though, for a character, it does get old, hitting this, seeing the same one all the time.
Yeah.
But there's enough characters with additions that
you can keep it fresh.
You can keep it pretty fresh.
I did notice that what's nice is you could, if one character dies or is like real low in HP, you could just switch them out with another character and then keep going in the dungeon or whatever you're in. That made it nice to keep it upbeat with different characters. You just keep switching them out.
And there is an item you can buy and equip that makes the additions successful.
But it does
half damage.
And it doesn't give you any SP, or it does half SP
and half damage. Yeah,
and it doesn't even count for your additions.
Oh, it didn't.
Nope.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because I've never used it.
I looked it up because I thought, well, I was having trouble with one of Albert's, and I got frustrated, and I'm like, I'm gonna attach this and just plow through this one so I can get to the next one and see if it's any better. And it didn't count. So it was like, no, there was no point. Right. And it was doing half damage and half SP, and it was just like, it was pointless.
Then you got the Dragoons, magic and attack.
Yeah, and their additions. Yeah, that was fun too. Their additions were different in the wheel that you had to click the X button. I couldn't ever really tell. Did it speed up?
Yeah, it got faster every successful.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it was like, I couldn't really tell, but it was like, it felt like it was going faster, and I was pushing it faster, but then I would fail. So it was like, I didn't know if I was pushing it faster and that's why I failed, or if it wasn't going faster, and I don't know. I don't know. It seemed like it was going faster, but I couldn't really tell. But yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10. What do you think?
Gameplay?
Yeah.
I personally liked it quite a bit, so I think I'll give that a 9.
So, music. I loved the music of this game, man. As soon as the game starts up on disc 1, you got that awesome intro and the theme song and the mishmash of all the cutscenes, and it sets the mood, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of haunting in a way.
Yeah.
Like you feel like it's ominous, like the story is just dark.
There was a few spots that it was like, oh, it's the same town theme again, or it's the same castle theme again, which is the only reason I gave it a 9 out of 10, and that was the only reason why I docked it a point, was because it did have that repetitiveness to it that I really don't like repetitive music.
Yeah.
I liked that they changed the battle theme from time to time. That made it really nice. When you're used to the battle theme and it's like, oh battle, and it's just they throw that little twist in there, just changing the music. Yep. It's not much, but it's enough to be like, this is different, It changes the mood.
Yep, and some of the bosses had pretty cool...
Very cool music, yeah. Very cool music. There was one, I was going to write down his name, but there was one that it was like, I was really digging the boss music, and the fight wasn't even all that long, but I'm like, man, that was awesome boss music.
Was it the Divine Dragon one?
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, great music. Like I said, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think I said the biggest downside, it kind of goes along with the repetitiveness, is there's not as much variety as something you're used to, like a Final Fantasy game.
Sure.
There's a more variety of music.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 too.
Yep.
And then overall is just how every aspect of the game plays together. I really feel like they clearly focus on the story, which is so nice. There's been so many games, even modern games, like Final Fantasy 15. I love the story, but it's just not as deep as this. And I think, this is a longer game. It took me 56 hours to beat. Mm-hmm. That's all story. That's very little side quests. Yeah. That's even battles, which I think you could probably get through this game with only doing minimal regular battles, just doing boss battles, because it's the only way you get experience anyway.
Right.
Just everything played together really well. The story was focused on, for sure, but with the uniqueness of the addition system, the battle system and as a whole, really. It's very unique. It was a different take on the traditional Final Fantasy RPG, which at the time, 2000, that was the RPG to beat.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to do an RPG, you look at Final Fantasy and you say, what can we do different? How can we make this better? And they nailed it. This has been a great game, and a lot of it's nostalgia, but I don't think too much of it is.
Yeah, I have to agree, because going back and playing it this time, that's the third or fourth time, and yeah, part of it's nostalgia, but just for me, story is what drives a game for me.
Oh yeah.
I could look past graphics and other things, but if the story's not there, I have a hard time getting into it. Every character seems to have something deep and intertwined. They're all related. It's not just some random characters getting together for some random reason. Like everything's plays together.
Everybody has their own agenda.
Right.
They're all heading towards the same goal, but they all have their own individual reason why.
Yeah.
It's not just hey, you're doing that, I'm going to do it too. It's
and you get a real sense of each person's character and personality. So I think that's what really makes it a great game.
Absolutely. Well, for overall, I gave it a 9 out of 10, which is more like a bonus score. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll have to go 9. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to be a perfect game, but it's about as close as you can get.
All right, so for me, that's a 43 out of 50, and you are a 45 out of 50. So that's a 88. That's not bad. That's probably one of our highest scores yet. It's like a B+, Normally, we play a thrift shop game review, or to review for each episode. This time around, we did the demo. Did you notice any differences between the demo and the game?
I don't think so. Obviously, them throwing in a little extra that you're not actually getting at that point in the real game, just to show off kind of what the game is capable of. But
yeah, I didn't really notice any graphic differences.
I think they could have done a little better prefacing the game, other than a little explanation at the beginning. If they had thrown in that beginning cutscene. Yeah,
well, I think if they maybe throw in part of the beginning cutscene and maybe some like clips of the story as they're, detailing it in text, I think that would have enhanced it a little bit. It would have spiced it up enough to be like, oh, I'm really getting the background and I can see it.
Right.
And you can kind of show off some of the different towns and stuff. But, to just have straight up white text on a black background is it's like reading the intro to Star Wars.
Like I said, looking back, if I would have seen that demo before the game, I don't know that I would have made it a priority to purchase the game. Because I remember walking in the store I didn't go there to get that game. I just was walking around the store, and remember it was far enough back I was with my dad, and I saw they had it sitting up on display on the counter, and I'm reading the back of it and looking at, they had the strategy guide sitting there. I'm like, and it's 4 discs. I'm like, oh, this looks really cool.
I think that's what drew me to it too. I'm like 4 discs? It must be awesome.
I've never heard of this game, and I'm like, I love dragons, and and then bought it. I'm glad I didn't play that demo before. Yeah. You remember the TV commercials that they had?
Yeah, where he cut his head off.
You cut my head off.
Yeah, I do. I was gonna look that up too and play it.
He picks it up. He's like, stop being a wussy.
What's funny is they made that commercial. It's like nicely rendered.
Yeah.
And they didn't use it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you use it? Why not? Even if you don't use that, obviously they're not going to use that same dialogue. But just to use that fighting scene, because that fighting scene is awesome.
It is.
and they don't use it in the game. Just throw it in.
Right.
A 30-second clip of them fighting would have been awesome.
Yeah, I would highly suggest, if you're listening to this, to go on YouTube or something, look up Legend of Dragoon commercial, and
you'll find it.
You'll be cracking up.
It's pretty
It'll
great.
It'll make you want to play the game. Just that commercial alone.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for being on the podcast and putting up with playing the game for a couple months.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to have you on a little bit more. And hopefully Kaylee will be on soon. She's out for a few months anyway, so trying to find a couple special guests to have on and play some games with other people. And again, great having you on, and we'll be back next month for another podcast episode. So thanks for listening, guys.